Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King, one of the all-time great heavyweights in the boxing world. He just retired from the sport. Now is said to be in talks with WWE for a potential return later this summer. This is according to a story on the website Give Me Sport. The site has been told that nothing is finalized at this stage, but discussions have taken place. Fury himself said months ago that he wanted to be at SummerSlam and Clash at the Castle in September in Cardiff. SummerSlam looks to be a no-go. It's too late in the game, I think, for that. So I assume this would be for Clash at the Castle. And the website says that they haven't been told if this would be just for an in-ring appearance on the show or an actual match in the ring. He and Drew McIntyre have been teasing a match for, it feels like years. I think at least the last couple of years. They've been making comments in interviews and on social media about wanting to work with each other. And Tyson Fury, he wants a match with Drew McIntyre. And McIntyre says, bring it, because, of course, he wants a match with him. So they've been teasing that for a long time. But McIntyre is likely going to be challenging Roman Reigns on that show for the championship. So if they do bring in Tyson Fury for an appearance, I could see him being either a special referee for that match or a special enforcer. Because he and Drew have, again, played up wanting to fight each other. You have that story of, is Fury going to do something to screw McIntyre out of the title? But then in the end, he beats up the Bloodline or something to keep them out of the match. And McIntyre wins the championship. And then he and Fury celebrate in the ring together after and have a big moment to close out the show. Absolutely, I could see that. If they bring him in to wrestle somebody else, I don't know who that would be. You know, the one match that Tyson Fury had with Braun Strowman 3 years ago at Crown Jewel sucked. It was a terrible match. And it left me with no desire to see him in the ring again. Now, I'm not a big boxing fan, so maybe I don't get the appeal of Tyson Fury. I know he was a big attraction. He was a very successful fighter. I'm not denying that he has star power. I don't know that he was the kind of pay-per-view draw that a Mike Tyson or a Floyd Mayweather was, but you know, no doubt, he was an attraction, he had a big name. But the bar has been raised when it comes to these celebrity matches. We've had some damn good ones. He was not one of them. I'm not sure what other opponent they might have in mind for him, but there's another celebrity the WWE just signed to a contract whose family has a history with the Fury family that could be a potential opponent for him, and that is Logan Paul. Dave Meltzer talked about the possibility of a Logan Paul-Tyson Fury match in this week's Observer, and I yawned so hard when I read that I almost dislocated my jaw. Logan's brother, Jake Paul, was, like him, also a YouTuber. He became a professional boxer a few years ago, and he has done well. And I know people would say, oh yeah, he hasn't faced any of the elite, boxers or whatever. The guy can fight. I think he has surprised a lot of people. He's done well for himself. He's made a lot of money. Fury's brother, Tommy, has pulled out of 2 scheduled fights with Jake Paul. One last year due to a medical issue, and then one just recently due to what he claimed were travel issues, some kind of visa issue. But it has turned into a whole thing. The 2 were supposed to fight next month in Madison Square Garden before Tommy pulled out. Now Jake Paul is fighting somebody else at MSG, but he's also threatening to sue Fury. I guess it was Jake Paul who booked the date at MSG, and then this guy pulled out. Now he's threatening to sue him because Fury's own father claimed in an interview that his son weighs 230 pounds, which means he would have to drop 30 pounds in a month to be able to make the weight limit for the fight. So it looks like he only pulled out because he's overweight. Anyway, Tyson Fury has expressed an interest in doing a match with Logan Paul, but WWE would probably have to pay him huge money, pay him through the nose, to agree to the match. Hey, I'm sure Vince McMahon could just dip into his personal hush money fund if he really wants to make the match happen. So the idea is that because the brothers have a beef, there could be money in a match between these two. It would get the company publicity, but honestly, I could not possibly care any less about any of this. And it goes to the heart of what I was talking about last week when I talked about Logan Paul being signed to a contract. He had a great showing at WrestleMania this year. He showed more of an aptitude for this than Tyson Fury did. And I understand WWE wanting to bring him back, but the idea of doing a match with 2 celebrities against each other and completely cutting out any actual WWE stars. It just makes it look like they're branching out into a real-life version of Celebrity Deathmatch instead of trying to make their own new stars. You know, normally at WrestleMania, if you had any celebrity involvement, it was one person, and usually to give one of their own stars the rub. This year, we had 3. Logan Paul, Pat McAfee, and Johnny Knoxville. And they all did well, but it's overkill. You know, the idea of them doing Tyson Fury against Logan Paul, and it's just an idea. There's no indication the match has even been discussed. But the idea of this, all you're doing is bringing in these outside stars. It's like they're living out their dream of being in wrestling fantasy camp. And meanwhile, your own talent gets nothing out of this. I mean, now that I've said that out loud, I much prefer them using Fury as a referee or an enforcer for a Roman Reigns Drew McIntyre match, especially if the idea is that McIntyre is going to be the one to beat Roman Reigns. And again, some people would say it should be Cody Rhodes, and I might agree with you on that, but I don't know. I don't know that Roman Reigns is getting out of Clash at the Castle without losing at least one of those titles. But Fury raising McIntyre's hand after he wins the championship, that would at least be a way to put over their champion, just like the way they used Mike Tyson with Steve Austin at the end of WrestleMania.